Like you, I am concerned by and convinced of the gender and income inequality that faces our society today. I just got a bug in my eye. That was a weird. Also concerned. And I was lamenting to Lindsay, my wife, about this. And I said, you know, look at me. How can I help? How can I be an ally? How can I support? Is there any role I could play? And she said, why don't you apply to join the Vermont Commission on Women? That was not the answer I'd expected. I thought, it's just so crazy it might work. And I applied and I was honored to be appointed in 2015. It has been an opportunity for me to learn, to be in a room with impressive, strong, successful women, to be inspired by their stories, and to learn so many things. My first order of business was just to listen, and I'd read this article about gender discrimination, and we were in the conference room of our commission meeting, and it was very cold, and I said, I don't know if you know this, I just read this article. It says the average office thermostat is set to the body temperature of a 50-something man in a suit. Isn't that crazy? And they said, yeah, Colin, we've known that for 30 years. There's an element of like, good job, Colin, good, yeah. Try to keep up. I came to my first WEOC event 3 years ago, and it was incredible, and it was mostly women in attendance, and I thought, you know, this is a chance for me to just observe and be a silent supporter. When you come in, they give you a raffle ticket, and at the end of the day, they drew a grand prize, and I won. I won a spa day. That was not the low profile I was going for. The past 2 years has felt like a journey of discovery because I have been exposed to the stories of inequality that women face and the ways that they have overcome them. I have heard stories about architects who took drafting class when they were students, even though they were accused of only doing so to flirt with the boys. And yet they became architects anyway. I have heard stories about female athletes who outshined their male athlete peers and received not accolades, but anger. And they outshined them anyway. I heard a story about a girl who wanted to learn how to weld. Her family would never allow a girl to do something like that. So she taught herself how to weld in an abandoned shed and is now a professional metalworker. These stories have cracked my heart open, and every time they have expanded it just a little bit more, and they've helped me to understand if every woman has faced inequality, what is my role? Why do I care? And that's when I realized my own story, my mother's story. See, my mom moved to this country, married my father, had me, and then quickly divorced, and all of a sudden found herself an American immigrant without a college degree, and now a single working mother, trying to support a very sick little boy who was constantly in the hospital with asthma. My mother was my hero, my first best friend in life, and I found out later that the moments that I was most proud of and she was most proud of in her work as a secretary and able to provide for me were the same types of moments that people used to talk about her in a sexist way. She walked into double binds. She was blamed for doing her best. You see, inequality has shaped my entire life, which is admittedly an odd thing to say because I grew up to be a straight, white, American-born man. Like all the groups that we are frustrated with right now. I'm in every single one. But the thing is, I'm not a group. I'm just a kid who was raised by a strong woman. I'm just someone who's sick of it and wants it to be better. And that little boy grew up wondering if maybe being a man, whatever that is, in some way meant making the world a little bit better for my mom. This is always an emotional day. It's not the first time I've teared up today. So, make the world a little bit better for my mom, and then my sisters, and then my brother, and then my father, and then me. I thought maybe I can, what could I do? But something about being a man must mean standing up for others. That's all I could picture. So when I joined the commission, I right away thought maybe my experience is a template for other men who want to be allies. Maybe, just maybe. I was invited in and it's changed my life. Maybe there are others out there. So we decided to find out. We decided to find out. The commission, Change's Story, a lot of great organizations, myself, not I, okay? We created an amazing event called Male Champions for Change. We invited men from all over the community. We invited C-levels, managers, leaders, movers and shakers. 60 men showed up, and the passion in the room was unmistakable. They said, what can we do to make a difference? And in the conversations that followed, I heard men say things like, I didn't even know what I didn't even know. And we're not the enemy. And all my life I was told, be a man, but no one ever taught me how. I heard one man say, this is the issue I care about the most in my life. I held a series of follow-up potluck dinners. We served chips and beer, and we talked about how to be better husbands and partners and allies. And yeah, somebody brought manwiches. That's too good of a joke to pass up. They are awful. Here's what I've come to believe. Most of the men that you know in the face of inequality do not feel apathetic. They feel powerless because they live in the same status quo that you do. And who can change the world? That is why so many men stay silent, because they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing, or they're afraid it's not going to make a difference. Anyway, this is going to sound crazy, but what if men need to be empowered to be allies for gender inequality? What if? What if they need help finding their voice? Look, it's not your job. It's not, but it's going to happen faster with your help. When I look at the template of my own experience, I can boil it down to 3 basic things. Here's your template. Invite, involve, invest. Invite. Look for opportunities not to call men out, but to call men into greater awareness, into the conversations, into events like this one. Invite them to events like this one. Don't give them raffle tickets. Right? We've learned our lesson. If I win today, I will never come back again. I'm so sorry in advance. So that's invite. Invite them to events with women in the name. Tell them that they can be part of this conversation. Involve. Show them that in small ways they can play a role. It could be amplifying the woman on the room whose idea it actually was, right? It could be paying attention to who's washing the dishes and who's taking the notes. Maybe some of these men have never even thought about that before. It's time for them to start being aware of that, yeah? And maybe what it means is asking, as crazy as it sounds, for their story. Maybe you ask a man you know, when did inequality show up in your life? Or when did you witness it in the life of somebody who matters to you? So that's involved. Finally, invest. All I can tell you is in the past 2 years, I have changed a lot. And it is because many of the people in this room have seen potential in me. And they have been patient in all of the moments when I was oblivious, patronizing, defensive, and wanted credit for the smallest thing possible. Because that's what we do as we change. We mess up, but we try to be better. This experience has changed my work. It has changed my life. Last month, I was speaking at the University of Minnesota in front of 2,500 college students and educators. And I said to them, salary negotiation for the women in this room, this is the number one way that you can personally close the gender wage gap. And it is a learnable skill. And you know what that audience did? They spontaneously started applauding because they get it. And I was so moved by their unexpected applause that I added, I just want you all to know that when you feel alone, you are not alone. You are surrounded by far more allies than you might realize. And that's the same message I have for you today, because it is true. Thank you.